first taste of freedom, researchers are releasing several Przewalski horses into the wild. In the 1960s, these wild horses were near extinction in their native Mongolia.
In a hot, dry desert in China, scientists did something many people did not believe in. They released wild horses into land, with almost no grass, very little water, and no safe place to hide. At first, it looked like the horses would not survive. But something strange started to happen. The horses did not just struggle, they began to adapt slowly. The land around them also started to change in small ways. What was once empty ground began to show signs of life again. How did this happen in such a dry place? Join us in this video as we reveal the details. The aftermath of China's act shocks scientists. In December 1986, something happened that shocked many people. 11 horses were taken into one of the hardest places on Earth to survive. The land was dry. The weather was cruel. Water was hard to find. Many experts believed these animals would die within months. This place was not just a normal desert. People nearby had stopped calling it useful land long ago. They called it a place where nothing grows. During winter, temperatures dropped so low that even strong animals struggled to survive. During summer, the heat could burn through the ground. There was little grass and almost no comfort. The horses standing there looked different from normal horses. They had short standing manes, strong bodies, and dark stripes on their legs. They were not ordinary horses. They were wild horses. The last true wild horses left in the world. But there was one problem. These horses had lived in zoos. For years, humans fed them. Humans gave them water. Humans protected them from danger. They had never needed to survive alone. Now they were expected to survive a place that was destroying farms, villages, and entire pieces of land. Many scientists called the project a mistake. Still, researchers believed there was a reason to try. Long before this desert became harsh, wild horses lived there freely. They moved across grasslands for thousands of years. Their hoofprints covered the ground. They ate plants. They spread seeds. They shaped the land without anyone noticing. Then they disappeared. When the horses vanished, strange things started happening. The soil slowly became hard. Rain still came sometimes, but the water could not enter the ground properly. Instead, it rolled away or disappeared quickly. Grass stopped growing well. Seeds stayed trapped under hard soil. Plants died. Year after year, the desert expanded. Dust storms became worse. Entire areas lost good farmland. People living far away started feeling the effects too. Huge storms carried dirt across long distances. Cities that had never seen this desert were suddenly breathing its dust. The problem became serious. People tried fixing it. Trees were planted. Bushes were planted. Barriers were built. Machines were used. But little changed. Many trees died because there was not enough water. Some places became even drier. Researchers realized something important. Maybe nature did not need more machines. Maybe nature needed the animals that once lived there. The Wild Horse Project was born from that idea. Researchers believed these horses could help repair the land naturally. The reason sounded simple. Horses walk a lot. Their heavy hooves break hard soil. When soil breaks, rainwater can sink in. Horses also move from place to place. They do not eat everything in one area. This creates different spaces where different plants can grow. Even horse waste mattered. Their dung carried seeds. Those seeds spread across large areas. Some seeds even grew better after passing through a horse. Researchers hoped these simple actions could slowly wake the land up again. Still, many people doubted the plan. Then winter arrived, and winter was brutal. Temperatures dropped far below freezing. Cold winds pushed across the desert day and night. Snow covered the little grass that existed. The horses struggled. Some became sick. Some suffered from severe colds. Pregnant mares lost their babies. Researchers watched carefully but avoided interfering too much. Many expected the project to fail. Then, something strange started happening. The horses began showing behaviors nobody taught them. They kicked through thick ice to reach water. They used their front legs to clear snow. Mothers stood around young foals to block strong winds. Groups stayed close together during storms. These animals had lived in captivity for generations. Yet deep inside them, survival instincts were still alive. Little by little, the horses adapted. They were not just surviving, they were remembering. By the end of that terrible winter, many researchers realized something important. The desert had not defeated them. Not yet. If everything scientists and workers tried was finally taking hold, then the real question was simple. What would happen when life started returning to the land? Let's delve deeper. When life started coming back. When spring arrived after that terrible winter, researchers noticed small changes. Tiny patches of green appeared. Grass started growing where horses had moved. At first, people thought it was luck. Then more plants appeared. The horses were changing the land. Every step they took pressed into the hard ground. Their hooves created small holes in the soil. These tiny spaces trapped rainwater. Water stayed longer. Seeds finally had a chance to grow. Soon researchers measured the soil. They found more moisture, more nutrients, more life underground. The ground that once looked dead was slowly waking up. Then came another surprise. Plant species missing for many years started returning. Seeds had stayed hidden beneath the soil all that time. They had simply been waiting for the right conditions. As plants returned, insects followed. Dung beetles appeared first. They buried horse manure underground. This improved the soil even more. Soon, other insects arrived. More insects meant more food. Birds started returning. Small mammals followed. Ground squirrels appeared. Small desert animals returned. Then, predators came. Foxes were spotted. Birds of prey returned. Even wolves started appearing again. The ecosystem was rebuilding itself. The horses had started a chain reaction. Years passed. The horses survived more winters. Each year became proof that the project was working. Researchers decided the next step was necessary. The fences had to go. In 2001, several horses were released fully into the wild. No fences, no extra food, no human help, just open land. Among them was a stallion named Hong. At first, the horses stayed close to where they were released. They moved carefully. They looked unsure. Then, on the 8th day, something happened. Hong started walking. The others followed him. He kept moving. 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers. Finally, he stopped. Researchers later discovered why. Hong had led the group to water, a hidden water source. Nobody had shown him the way. Nobody trained him. He simply found it. Even researchers could not fully explain it. After that moment, the horses spread farther. They created territories. Young foals were born. These young horses behaved differently. They recognized plants faster. They reacted quickly to danger. They grew thick winter coats. They looked more prepared for wildlife. As the years passed, horse numbers increased. The land kept improving. Researchers learned something powerful. Saving one species can help save many others. The horses helped plants. Plants helped insects. Insects helped birds. Birds helped predators. Everything connected together. The desert people once believed was dying slowly changed. Not overnight, not perfectly, but slowly. Life returned. The biggest surprise was never that the horses survived. The biggest surprise was that nature still knew how to heal itself when given the chance. After everything seemed finished for this animal in the wild, what quiet changes began to suggest something different might still be possible? Let's find out. From near extinction to return to the wild. For many years, Przewalski's horse was considered almost gone from the natural world. It survived only in zoos after disappearing from its wild habitats. Today, it stands as one of the clearest examples of a species brought back from the edge of extinction through long and careful human effort. By 2025, the population of these horses in China alone had grown to over 900 individuals. This number is very important because it represents about 1/3 of all Przewalski's horses living in the world today. These animals are no longer confined to small fenced areas. They now move across large regions of China, including Xinjiang, Gansu, Inner Mongolia, and Ningxia. In protected places like the Kalamaili Nature Reserve, they roam freely across wide desert steppe landscapes, surviving in conditions that were once thought too harsh for long-term survival. This recovery did not happen quickly or easily. It took many decades of planning, breeding, and careful management. At one point in history, the species was officially considered extinct in the wild. This meant that no free-living populations remained anywhere on Earth, and only captive animals in zoos could keep the species alive. The situation was extremely serious because animals raised in captivity often lose survival skills needed for the wild. The Przewalski's horse is especially important because it is not a domestic horse that escaped and adapted. It is the only surviving truly wild horse species in the world, meaning it has never been domesticated by humans. It has lived and evolved in natural conditions for hundreds of thousands of years. Physically, it is different from domestic horses. It is smaller, more compact, and stronger in build. It has a thick neck, short, upright mane, and a sturdy body adapted for survival in harsh climates. Genetically, it is also different. Domestic horses have 64 chromosomes, while Przewalski's horses have 66 chromosomes, confirming that they are not the same type of horse. Historically, these horses once lived across large parts of Central Asia, including deserts and grasslands where survival was difficult. Over time, human activity slowly pushed them toward extinction. Hunting played a major role in reducing their numbers as horses were slaughtered for meat and hides. Competition with livestock also made survival harder because domestic animals used up limited grass and water resources. As human populations expanded, wild habitats were reduced further, leaving less space for natural herds. Another major factor was the capture of young foals for zoos in Europe and other regions. This removal of animals from already shrinking populations placed even more pressure on their survival. By 1969, the last confirmed wild Przewalski's horse had been seen, and after that, the species survived only in captivity. The remaining population was extremely small, and scientists estimate that all modern Przewalski's horses descend from only about 12 wild-caught founders, with possible limited genetic input from a few domestic horses during early breeding efforts. This created a serious genetic bottleneck, meaning the population had very low genetic diversity, which can increase the risk of disease and long-term weakness. Despite these challenges, international breeding programs continued across many zoos. Countries shared animals, exchanged genetic information, and slowly increased population numbers over time. Today, about 2,700 individuals exist globally. China later developed a structured three-stage plan to return the species to the wild. The first stage focused on captive breeding in controlled environments where horses could reproduce safely. The second stage involved semi-wild conditions where horses began learning natural survival skills while still being monitored by humans. The third stage involved full release into natural environments where horses had to survive without regular human support. This gradual process was important because it allowed animals raised in captivity to slowly adjust to wild conditions. Without this step-by-step approach, many animals might not have survived in harsh desert environments. This careful planning laid the foundation for one of the most important wildlife recovery efforts in modern conservation history, showing that even species once declared extinct in the wild can return if protection and long-term commitment are maintained before it is too late. After their survival in harsh conditions was proven, the next question became, how did these horses start changing the environment around them? Let's learn more. How the horses rebuilt a desert ecosystem. The return of Przewalski's horses to the wild was not only a story about survival, but also a story about how one species can change an entire environment. After being released into desert and steppe regions, the horses faced many challenges. Early years were harsh. Some animals died due to extreme winter cold. Others were lost to predators such as wolves. In some areas, accidents occurred when horses crossed roads that cut through their habitats. Water quality also created difficulties, as some water sources contained high levels of minerals that made them unsafe for drinking. Despite these challenges, many horses survived and slowly adapted to their new environment. They formed stable social groups known as harems, usually consisting of one male, several females, and their young offspring. These groups helped improve survival because they provided protection and cooperation during difficult conditions. Over time, the horses developed strong survival behaviors. They learned to locate water sources on their own and adjusted their movement patterns according to seasonal changes. One important behavior observed in winter was their ability to dig through snow and frozen ground using their hooves to reach buried plants. This allowed them to survive in conditions where food appeared to be unavailable on the surface. As the population grew, researchers began noticing changes in the environment. The horses influenced vegetation patterns through grazing. In many ecosystems, when large animals are absent, certain plant species can grow too much and dominate the land. This reduces plant diversity. The grazing behavior of the horses helped prevent this by removing dominant plants and allowing other species to grow. This created a more balanced and diverse plant environment. The horses also played an important role in spreading plant seeds. Seeds attached to their fur or passed through their digestive systems were carried over long distances. This helped plants grow in new areas. Their manure also contributed to soil improvement by adding nutrients to poor desert soils, creating small, fertile patches where plants could grow more easily. Another important effect came from their movement patterns. The horses traveled long distances between feeding and water areas, creating natural pathways across the landscape. These pathways were then used by other animals, including wild asses, gazelles, foxes, and smaller mammals. This improved movement and access to resources across the ecosystem. Researchers began to describe the horses as ecosystem engineers because their natural behavior physically changed the environment around them. Their actions influenced plants, soil, water access, and the movement of other wildlife. Over time, a chain reaction developed. More plants supported more insects. More insects supported more birds. Birds and small animals attracted predators. Each part of the ecosystem became more connected and balanced. The return of the Przewalski's horse showed that restoring a single species can influence many others in a positive way. What began as a small population surviving in captivity became a large-scale ecological recovery process. Today, these horses are not only surviving in the wild again, but also helping to rebuild damaged ecosystems. Their presence demonstrates that with time, protection, and natural processes, landscapes once considered damaged beyond repair can slowly recover and support life once again. After the early results, scientists faced a bigger question. What would happen when even more horses were released into the wild? Let's take a closer look. When the wild began to rebuild itself, in the year 2001, wildlife workers released 27 Przewalski's horses into a large protected desert area in China. This was a major step because it meant the horses would now live fully on their own without daily human care. There were no fences holding them in and no extra food given to them. They had to survive like wild animals again. At first, the horses stayed close to where they were released. They moved slowly and carefully because everything was new to them. This showed they were not fully sure about the land. After some time, one strong male horse began to lead the group. He moved farther into the desert step by step. He guided the others in a clear direction without confusion. Later, this group reached a water source that was not marked on any map used by the researchers. This surprised the scientists because no one had told the horses about this place. It showed that the animals were able to find survival resources on their own. It also suggested that natural instincts or deep memory may still exist in them even after many generations in captivity. As time passed, more changes were seen in the young horses born in the wild. Wild-born foals were more alert, faster to react, and quicker to learn survival skills than zoo-born ones. Over time, scientists also observed the desert slowly greening as vegetation returned to previously barren areas. These changes were not spread everywhere, but they appeared in areas where the horses spent more time grazing and moving. Scientists also found that the soil was improving in these locations. The ground was holding more moisture than before. This meant that rainwater stayed longer instead of quickly drying up or running off the surface. The movement of the horses played a big role in this change. Their hooves created small holes in the hard soil. These small holes allowed water to enter the ground more easily. The horses also helped spread seeds as they moved across long distances. Slowly, these small actions added up and helped parts of the desert begin to recover. Scientists also studied the economic and environmental value of these horses. They found that the animals do many helpful things for the land. When they walk and graze, they break hard soil and help water enter the ground. When they eat plants, they prevent one plant type from taking over too much space. Their waste adds nutrients back into the soil, making it better for plant growth. Their movement spreads seeds to new areas, helping plants grow in places they could not reach before. Because of all these combined effects, experts estimated that each horse creates a large environmental benefit every year. When all the horses are counted together, the total impact becomes very large and can be measured in millions of dollars in environmental value. This does not mean the horses are being sold or traded. It simply shows how much the land improves because of them. Over time, other countries also began studying similar ideas. They looked at how large wild animals can help repair damaged land. In several places, similar projects were started, and results showed that when large animals return, plants, insects, birds, and small mammals also begin to return. This created healthier and more balanced ecosystems. Because of this, many scientists now believe that restoring nature sometimes depends more on returning key animals than only using machines or planting trees. It shows that nature can rebuild itself when the right species are brought back and protected over time. After seeing how desert lands expanded and threatened farms, cities, and entire ecosystems, and how earlier efforts struggled to bring life back to the land. One major question arises: how did China move from losing vast fertile ground to bringing back wild horses and using them as a living tool to restore balance to the desert again? Stay tuned for more. The rising desert and the start of a massive land recovery plan. In the northern parts of a large country in Asia, there are wide, dry lands. These lands are full of sand, dust, rocks, and dry soil. Many years ago, these same lands were not empty. They had grass, bushes, and many trees in some areas. People lived there, farmed there, and animals moved freely across the land. Life was active, and the land was useful. Over time, things slowly began to change in a bad way. The land started to dry out more and more. Trees were cut down in large numbers because people needed wood for building, fuel, and space for farms and towns. At the same time, more farm animals like goats, sheep, and cattle were introduced. These animals ate the grass too much and too fast. Because of this, the land could not recover. The plants did not grow back quickly enough. The soil became weak and loose. When soil is not held together by plant roots, it becomes easy for wind and water to carry it away. Strong winds blow the top soil into the air, and rain washes it away. Over many years, this process slowly turns fertile land into desert. This is called desert spreading. It does not happen in one day, but it becomes worse each year. Large areas of farmland began to disappear under sand. Some reports say about 1/3 of farmland was affected by this problem. Every year, thousands of hectares of land were lost. This meant land that once grew food slowly turned into dry wasteland. Sandstorms also became more common and more dangerous. Strong winds would pick up sand and carry it across cities, towns, and villages. The sky would turn yellow or orange. People could not see far. It became hard to breathe. Schools closed, flights stopped, and daily life was affected. In some cities, sandstorms happen many times every year. These storms caused health problems, especially breathing illnesses. Farming became harder because crops could not grow well in dry soil. The economy also suffered because land and food production dropped. Because the problem became very serious, the government decided to take action. In the late 70s, a large national plan was created. The goal was simple, but very difficult. It was to stop the desert from spreading and to bring life back to the land. This plan involved planting billions of trees across northern regions. It was one of the largest environmental projects ever started. The idea was to create a long green barrier that could block the movement of the desert. This barrier would stretch across thousands of kilometers. In some areas, it would also be very wide, forming a thick forest zone. The purpose was to slow down wind, hold soil in place, and help the land become moist again. One method used small curved holes in the ground that catch rainwater. These holes help keep water in one place instead of letting it run away. This gives young trees a better chance to survive. Special types of trees were also selected or developed. Some trees can survive with very little water. Some have very deep roots that can reach water far underground. These trees were chosen carefully for dry conditions. Over time, planting continued year after year. Many workers, farmers, and scientists joined the effort. At first, many trees died because the environment was too harsh, but improvements in methods slowly increased success. Small green areas began to appear in places that were once only sand. This marked the beginning of a very long effort to fight desert spread and restore the land step by step. After understanding how the land slowly turned from fertile ground into dry desert and how large efforts began to bring trees and life back to the soil, the next question becomes clear. What real changes did these massive planting efforts create over time? And did they truly succeed in restoring balance to the land, or only solve part of the problem? Let's find out. Results, changes in the land, and long-term challenges. As the tree planting project continued for many years, the land began to change slowly. Areas that were once empty desert started showing signs of life again. Grass began to grow in some places. Small bushes returned. In certain regions, small forests started to appear. Over time, billions of trees were planted across the north. The forest cover increased from a very low level to a much higher one. This showed that the project was working in many areas. One major result was the reduction of sandstorms. In earlier years, sandstorms were very frequent and very strong. They caused damage to cities, farms, and daily life. But as more trees grew, the wind became weaker near the ground. Trees acted like a wall, slowing down the movement of sand. This helped reduce the number of sandstorms over time. Fewer sandstorms also improved human health. With less dust in the air, fewer people suffered from breathing problems. Farming also improved in some areas because the soil became more stable. The land was no longer blowing away as easily as before. New economic activities also developed. People found jobs in planting trees, maintaining forests, and working in land recovery programs. Some areas that were once desert became useful again for farming. Fruits, nuts, and other crops started growing in restored regions. Some places even became tourist sites because green areas in desert regions attracted visitors. However, the project also faced serious challenges. One of the biggest problems is water. Many of these regions have very low rainfall. Trees need water to survive, and in dry areas, water is limited. In some places, planting too many trees has caused underground water levels to drop. This happens because trees use water from the soil faster than it can be replaced. Another issue is that many forests contain only one type of tree. This is called a single-species forest. While it is easier to manage, it is also risky. If a disease or insect attacks that tree type, large parts of the forest can be damaged quickly. This makes the system weak in the long term. To solve these problems, changes were made. Scientists started planting mixed forests with different types of trees, shrubs, and grasses. These mixed systems use less water and are stronger against disease. Better irrigation systems were also introduced to save water. New tree types that can survive in dry conditions were also developed. These improvements helped make the project more balanced and safer for the environment. The project is still ongoing. More land is being restored, and future plans aim to recover millions of hectares of damaged land. Other countries have also started similar projects after learning from this example. Some regions in Africa and Central Asia are now using similar methods to stop desert spread. In conclusion, China's effort shows how far a country can go when faced with a serious environmental crisis. Turning vast deserts back into green land is not a small task. It takes years of planning, hard work, science, and patience. Millions of trees have been planted, and large areas of land have already begun to recover. At the same time, the project also shows that nature is delicate and must be handled carefully. Water use, tree choice, and long-term balance all matter. Overall, it proves that even the harshest desert can be changed, but only through steady effort, smart planning, and long-term commitment. What do you think about China's shocking act? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for staying with us as we explored the massive effort to fight desertification and bring life back to China's dry lands. If this journey through trees, deserts, and ecological change keeps you engaged, don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video on your screen for more powerful stories about nature, survival, and the world we live in. See you there.